I'm so glad you noticed.
Yeah, I wanted to say the same, but...
Okay, so I just walk in, and the first thing I hear from this nice man in the front row is nice tie. It's the first time I've worn this tie. I just bought it at the Palm Springs Art Museum gift shop because I like to get a new tie every year for my first pre-concert chat with Carlos Kalmar.
Good evening. Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Actually,
And,
before you mentioned the wonderful radio station, I have to criticize. This radio station haunts me, your radio station. Because sometimes I come here, and of course when I drive here, I listen to the radio station. I remember one time I was driving not so long ago, and you guys played the piece that I actually was conducting that night. That's pretty horrible. And tonight I was just driving down, and I turn on the radio, and I think, like, why do you play that piece? Not so well-known piece, Dvorak, because I have conducted it 3 weeks ago. Why do you do that?
It's our little way of keeping in touch, Carlos.
Anyhow, Dvorak 5.
Oh, yeah.
Good piece.
Wonderful piece. Wonderful melodies, one after another.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm Robert McBride of All Classical Portland. I'm wearing an 89.9 button tonight, too. See that? Stop it. And this is actually the first time I've been doing this with you in what seems like ages.
Since May.
Yeah, well, and even then, I was traveling back then, so...
You get lucky. You
yes,
okay,
I feel like I haven't been
traveled
here
too.
forever. Well, you traveled way
Well,
over.
where I did Dvorak 5 was kind of far away.
Spain?
Singapore.
Oh, even farther. Wow.
Spain was after that.
Now, I'm guessing you're fluent in Spanish, right?
Sí, señor.
Yeah, so your gig in Spain, in Madrid,
Yeah.
is a good fit in many ways.
Yeah.
But we like having you here too, you know.
Oh, I like
so-
to be here,
okay.
actually.
You have a CD release coming up soon, your second CD with the Oregon Symphony.
Yeah, This England. So if you have not done your Christmas shopping, I can kind of like... Yeah, because, you know, if last time with the first CD that the Oregon Symphony recorded with me, we did so well in the sales, and it was for so many people a Christmas gift, and I myself thought, like, I was fascinated because, yeah, I know it was the Carnegie concert, and the Carnegie concert got to be very, very famous, but I thought, like, if somebody gives me a gift for Christmas and it is music for a time of war, I don't know. So this time, actually, no violent music, or not so much.
Yeah,
This
sure.
England, variety. Most of the time, Vaughan Williams, Symphony No. 5, very lyrical, incredibly beautiful piece. Then we have the Four Sea Interludes and the Passacaglia by Benjamin Britten of the opera Peter Grimes. Phenomenal music. And then Cocaine Overture, which is raucous, boisterous, high energy, fun.
Yeah, and this what, November 14th or something like that? It's released sometime soon.
Don't ask me.
Right.
I will be there.
But you have to check your schedule because
Yeah.
you're a busy man.
Yeah, because before that, I think I'm conducting this little piece of next week.
Mahler,
Yeah, it's
the
oh,
tragic symphony, so-called
Yeah.
tragic symphony by Mahler. But we're getting ahead of ourselves because tonight
we have something to do.
Tonight, we have a gigantic array of percussion instruments.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you ever worry about the hearing of your fellow musicians when you program things like this?
Actually, it doesn't. In this piece, it doesn't matter so much that the array of instruments that you see on stage is so huge. I think I know pieces that are loud. This is a loud piece in part. Most of the part, it's very soft. Or comparing to how many people you're going to see on stage, it's very soft. There are pieces, actually normal pieces. If you ever, when you have ever had the pleasure of conducting, and I did it here, for example, A Hero's Life, Strauss, and the battle happens, and the battle gets out of hand. Boy, that is loud. Oh yeah. So I mean, yeah, the Adès is loud, but it's, yeah, it's fine.
Thomas Adès, Asyla, piece written in 1997. Adès is an English composer. He was in his mid-20s when he wrote that. He's pretty young. Have you met him?
Unfortunately, no.
No, I haven't either. I'd like to.
Yeah.
Metropolitan Opera is doing one of his operas this season. Really successful guy. So tell us about this piece and why you chose it.
Actually, I chose this piece because if you look at the last, let's say, 25 years into what people in the classical music world wrote, this is probably one of the three most important pieces that have been written in the last 25 years.
In all that time, all that music.
Yeah, period. I mean, we can get into a huge argument, but Asyla by Thomas Adès is really a remarkable piece. That's one. Second, as you probably know, I here and there like to mix things up because we here in Portland, we are weird. And so we actually have this wonderful thing, and I had, over the years, I had this wonderful experience with the audience, and the orchestra too, of course, of actually playing very well-known pieces side by side with something that nobody knows. And very often the reaction by the audience was, we love that piece that we all will know very well, and this other thing that we have never heard of is like, wow. And in a way, in this particular piece, Asyla by Thomas Adès, I want, my logo, if you want, is come here and be astounded about what a human mind can invent in terms of what sounds we can make with an orchestra. And maybe later when more people are in the audience and I am dressed differently and come out, maybe we do a slight demonstration of some percussion instruments. But this is the very first piece I conduct where there are actually 3 pianos and a celesta on the stage. There are 3 pianos there. You might not see all of them, but there is one long, meaning a 9-footer or a 7-footer, I don't know, and there are 2 upright pianos and a celesta. And you know, whenever it comes to percussion instruments, I didn't grow up with percussion instruments. I'm a string player by training long time ago. And of course, during the years when you conduct, you get to know a couple of percussion instruments that you don't even know they exist. So, for example, I remember very distinctively one time conducting a piece by American composer Morton Gold, and it said in the score, marching band. A percussion instrument called a marching band. And so I went to my percussion people, it was in Chicago, and they showed me the marching band. It is something like it's little pieces of wood that are hanging, and they take it in their hands and bang it on a hard surface like rum, rum, and it really is it sounds like soldiers marching. And I tell you, even for this piece that you're going to hear tonight, there is one instrument, I need to make this. Actually, Neil DaPonte told me the story because I asked him, so did you go to Home Depot to get it? He didn't go to Home Depot, different shop, but he really went to a paint shop. And I lost, in a way, the fear of not getting what I need. One day when I was conducting a piece by Luciano Berio, that I actually conducted here too, that asked for coils, meaning the suspension.
Coil springs from a car.
Coil spring from a car. So after, of course, I did the first rehearsal, I had to go to the percussion section to ask whether they had wrecked their own cars. Yeah. Composers invent very interesting sounds. Now, getting back to this piece, Asyla, it's a fascinating piece of music, and yes, it's very modern in language, but actually one of the most fascinating things, and there are, as I promise you, there are sounds coming out of this orchestra that you probably think like, how do they do that? But the thing is that there are a lot of melodic episodes in this music. It's not specifically one of those modern pieces where, you know, sometimes you hear that. No, not really. And even the title points in two different directions, because Asyla is plural for asylum, and asylum on one side can mean a sanctuary, philosophy, where your mind goes, even asylum in the sense of, don't understand this literally, but political asylum, meaning something that doesn't belong to the place where it is, but it is kind of, okay, you can be with us. And I'm making this up, but maybe one of the pianos is like that. It doesn't belong there, but it's still there. And asylum is, of course, also a madhouse. And the music can really be described in part as it's crazy out there. And now, the music that you're going to hear has this tendency to be very eruptive. So look out for certain things like there is a melody that you will hear. Actually, the melody travels through some instrument. It's quite slow. And then there is a little bit of disruption here and there. In the first movement, which is mostly a slow movement, there is this wonderful lyrical melody, and there is some grumbling, meaning like the contrafagot, the tuba, the third trombone, meaning the low instrument, together with the double bass, is like something like, yeah. And then there is this fantastic second movement, which, as a story, it doesn't have a title, but the original title was Vatican. It's a very melancholic movement, and at the beginning, I think, it gives you this sense of solitude. And again, there is a long singing melody, and the first time you actually think, I can follow the melody, it's an instrument that I have never seen in an orchestra, first time, which is a bass oboe. I've seen English horn pretty much in every concert, but a bass oboe, so we had to travel pretty far to find somebody who has one and who can play it. So that is actually, it's an interesting sound that comes. So this very down melancholic music, and pretty much without any announcement, the trumpets go crazy, completely. It's like this, it literally, that's what you will hear. And okay, the trumpets create a lot of mayhem in the entire wind section. Then the melody goes on and goes on. And one of the very interesting things in the second movement is the ending, because if you think that music can be very high-pitched and very low-pitched, you think it is like the ending of this movement is really stretching the boundaries of sound, because on one side, wonderful Sarah Kwak will play solo, and as high as she pretty much can get on the violin, and at the same time, Evan Kuhlman, our contrabassoon player, as low as he can. So it's the highest and the lowest at the same time, and speeding. It's very odd. And then comes, of course, the movement that probably is easiest to remember, and it's the only movement that has a title. This movement is called Extasio, and in a way it refers in part to weekend scene, London clubs, very loud music, techno music, and techno music going wild and slightly crazy, and things, again, they get out of control. There are these very weird rhythms and this constant banging on some instrument and everything. Extasio refers, of course, to ecstasy, and in the sense of the pill ecstasy. So it's a trip. Not only, but it is a trip, and of course, if you read medical magazines or literature for young people, you realize that ecstasy is among the many drugs that you shouldn't touch. That's for sure one of them, because it can go really wrong. And it seems to be that in this music, that's what is being described. And in that context, actually, one of the pieces of music in this Asyla of Thomas Adès that I love the most is the ending of the third movement and the start of the last. Because there is this craziness and speed of the third, and it washes over all of us, and then there is only a chord lies there, very quiet, and then there is silence, and the silence is important, and then the fourth movement starts, and it's like I make this up. It's just to explain something visually that it's a little bit of being in a very dark room and hearing voices whispering, and it's spooky. It's like this. And that's how the music starts. And there is a very, again, melody, very low, tuba, contrabassoon, double basses. That's where the melody is. And yeah, it builds up a little bit, and in a way, another of the big surprises of this piece, although it's modern music, is the ending of the piece. Because, okay, we are all trained in classical music, and we can hear that in, for example, the Tchaikovsky that follows, that, yeah, at the end is wang, 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 and it's like, wow, clear where it ends. In modern music, well, sometimes it ends fast and loud, or sometimes the sound just dissipates for a long while until it's gone. And in this piece that you're going to hear, it's quite a complex piece, but I think it's great fun to listen. The music at the end, it just stops. Trust me, you will not get a feeling like, yeah, it's very clear it's over. You will get more the feeling like, what just happened? Maybe. And that even is something remarkable, because maybe, I'm not telling too much of what to listen for, but if you remember what I said about the second movement, this high pitch, low pitch, and speeding, also that it's like snap, and it's gone. And at the end of this wonderful piece called Asyla by Thomas Adès, it's like there is this wash of sound, and then it's done. And it's like, wow. And on top of that, well, I will explain a couple of instruments, and you will really enjoy this piece. And I tell you another thing, that having been music director of this wonderful symphony and having in our great community here in Oregon, this is the third piece of Thomas Adès that I'm bringing. I did a piece pretty early in my time called And All Shall Be Well. And the last piece I did, which I simply adore, is the overture, scherzo, and finale of the opera Powder Her Face. And that piece, I remember it. I mean, the audience loved it, and it was a riot. This piece, in part, is another one of those. Riot. Different. I mean, the mind of this guy, unbelievable.
And then?
And then comes one of my favorite, sorry, you have to stop me occasionally. Then comes one of my favorite moments in the concert, because we will talk about Alban and maybe about a little bit about Tchaikovsky, but this thing about conducting a piece of modern music that is so out there and so, in part, so hyped and so strange. And then you stand there and you start with Tchaikovsky. It's unbelievable. Just that moment.
And that theme is so elegant. I've always preferred the classical side of Tchaikovsky, the Rococo variations, the serenade for strings. So thank you for bringing this lovely piece for cello and orchestra with Alban Gerhardt, your favorite cellist, who you've already been working to death. I mean, he's been running around giving master classes and playing in shopping malls. And this is the first of a 3-year residency. He'll be artist in residence with the Oregon Symphony. Has the orchestra ever had a person like that before?
No, this is the first time the Oregon Symphony kind of asks an artist to be artist in resident. What that means is the artist will come for the next 3 years consecutively and will spend a week with us. And aside from playing with the orchestra, whatever concert we are doing, he will work in the community. And Alban is perfect because Alban is a guy who really plays wherever you tell him. I mean, he told me that actually, I don't know, 10 days ago he was in Berlin, where he lives, and he played in the train station. And I know that, yes, he did a master class for actually cellists from PYP, which is great. He played for donors. I think yesterday at 4 o'clock he was at Pioneer Square Mall playing Bach. And rumor has it that on Monday, don't ask me what time, he will play. I have actually, where's this? You have to brief me how to say it. When you go to OHSU with the cable car, okay, up there seems to be a, the tram, and there seems to be a hallway or God knows what up there. There, he will be playing. I mean, and if you ask him to go to that bar and play, oh, Alban is the first. And I mean, today, after the rehearsal, Marilyn de Oliveira, who is leading the cello group this week because Nancy Ive has injured herself, Marilyn said, hey, Alban, can we maybe play together in a hospital? And Alban is right there. So that is, it's just a community work. And I mean, Alban is great. First time we do it, first time that Alban does something like that.
I didn't know until recently that the order of the variations in the Rococo variations is not what Tchaikovsky had originally written. He wrote them for a cellist he knew at the Moscow Conservatory. And when the composer wasn't looking, the cellist rearranged his piece. And it got published that way, and that's the way it is. Have you ever changed them? Have you ever messed with that?
No. Actually, I would follow. If Alban tells me, you know, let's go back to what I will do it, of course. But actually, this order works very well. And the fact is that this piece, the Rococo variations by Tchaikovsky, it's another of those pieces that Tchaikovsky wrote with Mozart in mind, because Tchaikovsky adored Mozart and wrote a couple of pieces, Mozartiana is one, which actually are written kind of in honor and remembering Mozart and kind of copying the way Mozart wrote. So for a Tchaikovsky piece, this is very small orchestra. I mean, it's barely a couple of winds, not many strings, and that's it. And the only difficulty that Tchaikovsky actually had was he was not an expert in cello. So there was this German cellist, Wilhelm Fitzenhagen, sounds like it already, who kind of rearranged a couple of things, probably many of the things, and double stop here and how to write for cello, always kind of honoring Tchaikovsky's music, but he must have altered quite a bit, because in the end, I mean, the piece was successful, but in the end, Tchaikovsky was being asked, do you actually want to go back to what you originally wrote? And Tchaikovsky said, the hell with it, let's leave it. It's okay.
Do you think we'll get an encore out of Alban tonight?
I hope.
It's not something that he talks about or plans or divulges in advance?
I would give away something.
Ah. Okay.
But
don't want that.
I mean, I hope you like it. I hope you applaud, and maybe we have something.
Okay. Please applaud lots for the Tchaikovsky, so we'll get an encore.
Applaud lots for the rest too.
Well, sure. Second half of the concert, suite from Prokofiev's incredible ballet Romeo and Juliet, some of the best music of the 20th century period, in my humble opinion.
Why do you think that?
Oh my goodness.
Finally, can you put you on the
It
spot?
has a lot to do with, it has in part to do with the sheer beauty of the music, but what it really has to do with is the way the music tells the story, the way it captures the moods, the way it captures the personalities and the conflicts. You could close your eyes and just hear and see the whole thing. And it goes on like that for 2.5 hours. It's magnificent. Great stuff. And you guys haven't played it since 1984 or something like that?
I couldn't believe that.
Yeah. So-
What happened?
Yeah, thank you.
Did nobody ask for this piece? Because I completely agree with Robert. Undoubtedly one of the greatest pieces written in music. End of
Certainly one of the
story.
greatest ballets.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable music. And one of the greatest ballets, and which is funny because when he wrote this piece and presented it, the ballet company said, this is completely undanceable. We need more beat. And he's, I mean, Prokofiev...
Wanted more cowbell.
Yeah. So, I mean, Prokofiev, I can imagine with great pleasure how probably the conversation might have gotten slightly out of hand when dancers or the director of the dance company asked Prokofiev to actually change something. Because Prokofiev was notorious for being very, let's say it gently, very well aware of what his worth, meaning his compositional skills. I mean, he didn't really lack self-esteem, let's say it that way. And he could be incredibly abrasive at times. And on top of that, he must have been one of those Russian bears, meaning quite an intimidating person who had this tendency, choleric temperament to real outbursts. So I imagine the poor director telling him, Sergei, look. Okay, Sergei obliged and wrote something. But there is 2.5 hours of music, and so there are suites out there, 3 of them. 3 suites, and here and there it happens that we conductors play either suite number 1 or number 2 or number 3, but most of the time, I'm not the only one who does that, we built our own. I built my own. It's just an opinion. And of course the suite that I built is just, if you want, Carlos' favorites of Romeo and Juliet. And I could expand that. I could add another 15 minutes of favorites. The only thing that I'm, and please do not, it's not necessary for you to go home and look with a program book whether the pieces that we play tonight are actually in the order of how the piece evolves. They are not. However, I believe that this way still it tells a story. There is one little thing that I'm always very happy about, because I've told this so often. You know, I always make jokes or make fun about my own profession, including myself. We conductors have this tendency to have big egos. So we like it when after when a piece, especially the piece in the second half of the concert that ends the concert, ends loudly and raw. Yeah, it's fun. And actually there is one piece in this Prokofiev that is, it's pretty much made for that, exactly for that. However, the piece actually cannot, in my humble opinion, cannot end there. There is this very famous Tybalt's Death, which is very fast, very loud, and very virtuosic, and it blows up the tragedy, and it ends with a real big bang. But unfortunately, at that point, Romeo and Juliet are not dead. So I just like to tell the story. So after Tybalt's death, there comes the most amazing music there is, meaning when they are already dead. It's out of this world. We agree on that, right?
We do. We do. And you know what? We're out of time. Whether you want to agree or disagree, we're out of time.
Okay.
Our Saturday night pre-concert chats are videotaped. You can find them at the website allclassical.org. You can tell your friends who are unable to make it that they could watch it at their convenience and hear the wit and wisdom and expertise of Carlos Kalmar.
And Robert McBride.
Thank you.